All right. Okay. Well, that was fun. We've got some great guests joining us this morning. We've seen the name around at all the conventions and conferences. They're big sponsors of a lot of associations. The company is Victaulic, and we've got Nicholas Roberts and Corey Dandurand. Got it? Got it?
You got it.
Yep.
You got it.
Joining us this morning,
Rolled
both
off.
from Victaulic, both crushing things here in British Columbia and Western Canada. Guys, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
It's great to
Good
be here.
Right on. Wow.
We'll always say, like,
Pepsi
we have these
drinks.
great guests today. They're always great.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
They're always great. Like, we don't pick.
Have you ever announced one is not great? Is that?
We were thinking about
You
it.
don't hear those episodes.
We have some guests that we're going to regret here. So, yeah, that would be terrible to start that way.
We can meet those expectations easier, probably. So
Possibly, yeah. Well, we have a ex-US. Are you Canadian now?
not yet. No, that's a long process up here,
Oh,
but
I
it's
see.
ongoing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the PR, it's ever since everything's challenging since COVID. I think it's an excuse for a lot of things now, but
Right.
it's certainly lingered when it comes to those types of efforts. It's 12 plus months in now to get that program going.
Well, going into the States is harder if you've had problems. Like, I got fingerprinted again just going to a volleyball tournament with my daughter.
Context, James?
Oh, context is I tried to go in and get to Hawaii. I didn't have my visa wasn't, because I'm British still. So my visa wasn't updated, and I had to, they said if you go through the land crossing, you can fly out from Bellingham. I go through there. Actually, didn't get through there. They made me turn around. So they're like, sorry, you can't do this. And so, yeah, now I've been denied to the U.S. So when I went down with my visa, they're like, sorry, we got to fingerprint you. So my daughter and wife were
How'd that make
super
you feel?
happy about that.
Was that an uncomfortable feeling?
Oh, in
Was
the
it
in the
familiar feeling?
in the lineup where it's a shift change where everybody just going and having lunch.
Yeah.
And then there's babies crying, and it's just
Oh, yeah.
and the problem is you have to be on your best behavior. That's the worst
They're
part.
always watching.
It's as close to being in prison as possible. Like, because you can't do anything. You just have to conform.
At least they feed you in prison. That's what they
That's
do.
true.
The border, border crossing in that holding area, like, it's intense.
It is.
It's not a fun place to be. But as you were saying, yes, James, we have one American and one Canadian with us. That's a great mix. This is awesome. Guys, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourselves, and then we'll get into Victaulic. Corey, you want to start?
Yeah, so I've been with Victaulic for 13 years. Believe it or not, I've lived in 4 different provinces and spent some time in Johannesburg as well along the way. So it's been move heavy, but we've settled down in Maple Ridge here in the Vancouver metro area. A couple of years here and couldn't be happier.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What, Johannesburg, really quick.
Yeah.
J-Bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joburg, yeah.
Yeah, 2012, we moved down there, my wife and I. 13, we were there all year, came back in 14. And so Victaulic participates in, really, we're industry and pipe agnostic. So it doesn't matter if it's steel, stainless, plastic, or if it's in, shipbuilding, the commercial business. That's our primary here now. Mining is what I was doing over there, so underground hard rock mining. So I was responsible for the platinum ore body and a lot of the diamonds as well. So we were going down 3 kilometers underground, and
Wow.
all the pneumatic drill piping and the freshwater piping and the coolant piping.
Is that the conflict diamonds, or is that what it's called?
Some of that
Little
a
bit.
little bit further north.
Said we're agnostic, remember? Agnostic.
Yeah.
We don't-
Yeah. I tried not to go any further north than Botswana.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Didn't they have a name
Gotcha.
for your program of Canadians that got shipped around the country, the world for that, Corey?
They did indeed call it the Inglorious Bastards.
Did they
Ah,
really?
Yeah.
Wow, Quentin.
How many of you were there?
Yeah, there was 4 of us that moved to South Africa, 3 Americans and myself,
Oh, cool.
and 3 that moved to Australia at the same time.
No way.
Yeah.
And now currently, Maple Ridge, beautiful Maple Ridge.
Yeah, except
Here.
for the hour and 40-minute drive in this morning.
Oh, I know. We were all
hour
kind
and
of subject to it. Well, a couple of us were subject to
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
but we're super glad that you guys were able to make it in. Kate, Corey, your current role, what are your responsibilities at Victaulic?
So we kind of split British Columbia, if you will, between Nick and myself. So in the Metro Vancouver area, Nick, well, I'll let him introduce himself, but he handles the resi side. I handle ICI, which is Industrial, Commercial, Institutional, and then I kind of go east and north from there. So I've got the interior Kootenays in northern BC, which is where a lot of the mining happens here, which kind of connects me to my background.
Exactly.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So that's my scope.
Very cool. Okay. Nicholas Roberts.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's hear it.
I'm going on 9 years with Victaulic. Before that, I was 6 years in the general contracting business, and so I was quite the change. I've enjoyed it. I started my career with Victaulic in St. Louis. I was working for a general contractor there doing a casino renovation, and I Googled. I always wanted to kind of try my hand at sales, and my wife now lived there, and so I Googled construction sales. And back when Monster.com was still an effective website, I found this Victaulic posting online, and I applied, and I met with the gentleman who's actually ended up becoming my mentor down there in the States. But my first meeting was good, and the second meeting he gave me an offer, and I thought he was HR, and he's like, no, I'm the divisional manager for the central part of the country.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, oh, welcome to Victaulic. And since then, I spent 2.5 years there, 3.5 years in Houston running our South Texas commercial business, and then I've been up here, joined Corey in summer of 2021 to, as you mentioned, the first time in Victaulic history, actually split a vertical market within a commercial business, and I helped create the residential team that focuses on condos, walk-up, things like that. It's a large market sector here, as you know, so It's been a fun change. It's been great to have a good partner that knows a lot about Victaulic and a lot about construction, and Corey, being that a lot of challenges that come with splitting an existing region, creating a new sales team, a new infrastructure, and so forth. And he's been a great partner to do that over the years. And it's been a fun last two years to get things moving here. So we love it up here.
I had to be, because I couldn't have done it without this guy. So
tough gig, but it's been fun. So
No, I could tell outside right when we bumped into each other that you guys obviously have built quite a great relationship over the last couple of years, which is cool to see. How big is the team out here in BC? Or that you guys are
so my team is, and I forgot to mention, I have the island coverage too. I have a commercial focus like I do here, but then a dotted line to some of the infrastructure stuff and power and things like that, and mining. But my team consists, I have 4 reps here in the Lower Mainland that focus on the residential. We call it line sales. So they're helping the commercial mechanical contractors is their chief responsibility, with some commercial engineering responsibility consultants. And then we have a dotted line to a business development rep that's here focusing on owners, developers, and engineers, who's part of another team, which is a new infrastructure this year. And then I have another guy on the island. So for me, 4, 5 of the dotted line, and then 6 with my island guys. So that's my team here.
Crazy. Nice.
yeah, I've got the 4 counterparts to his in the Metro Van area on the commercial side of the business. Then I've got an EPC guy for mining, so he deals with the the Flora, Hatch, Worley, Parsons wood groups. Then I've got 2 commercial guys in the north, 2 mining guys in the north, and an industrial guy in Vancouver. So I think it's 10.
And we've heard the comment, there's like Victaulic ants running around the province, but it's we'll get into some of the specifics, but it's really important for us to continue to grow and really penetrate the market and be involved with our partners out there. And that's it's a great reason we work for the company. It gives us the opportunity to do that, and there's a lot of opportunity still left to be had. So we have a good team here to continue to drive that.
So the history of the company then, based where, started where, founded where?
Corey, I think you did it on the way in, so I'm going to kick that to you.
Yeah, we'll do it again, which is great. So we're coming up on a 105-year-old concept and a 104-year-old company. So in World War II is when it all started, and really it was an innovative way to deploy fuel and water faster to the front lines.
Okay.
So a general and an engineer got together, and they started experimenting with machining a pipe end, aka today's groove, and then coupling it very quickly with a mechanical joint, and loading the pipes, delivering the fuel and the water. One of the cool pieces of it was the flamethrower, which was a huge advantage for the Allied troops at the time. Was powered by the fuel that was running through the pipe.
So is that the coupling joint then?
That's right.
That's essentially
that's how we got our start.
Genesis of the business.
Well, and the name originally was, and I think it might have even been World War I, if I'm not mistaken. It's been
105 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
The Victory joint was the origin of the name of that joint.
So cool.
And so then Victory through hydraulics, add those together. That's where we came up with Victaulic. So
No way.
Victaulic.
Yeah.
That's cool. Not vitriolic.
No. There's a lot of clamps, terms, Victaulics. You'll hear a bunch out there,
Yeah.
but
because vitriol is like
we try not to associate with that, but yeah, that's a little bit more of a negative term for
There's
us.
a negative term.
the only reason that it's just, I think the listener will go, oh, that kind of sounds like that. So obviously it's not. But now we got that out of the way. Okay.
That's a pretty cool genesis of the company, but also inception there, or around a concept that formed into a company. But it since moved, or when did it move stateside? Because that's where it's really taken off here and then worldwide, I guess, right?
Yeah, 24, I believe it was, 1924.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
they
so not
patented
long
it and
after.
made the company in 25, and I think not long. It was in the UK as the origins of our founders, but I don't think it was long after that they came to the US.
That's cool.
Yeah, an American group bought the concept and then started Victaulic.
Okay.
And
Right.
until, I don't know, in the last 10, 15 years, I have to fact check some of this, but a lot of the different companies or countries had their own, the Victaulic company of China or of Japan or what have you, and it wasn't but too long ago that we became a global entity. So that's been nice to conglomerate and be able to use the resources from across the planet under the same umbrella. So
what's the head count of like
Yeah, I was
the
gonna-
entire international organization?
We're just shy of 4,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. Do you guys have a Victaulic party that happens somewhere?
I wish. They had one.
Like a summit kind of thing?
They had a sales one in Vegas about 3 years before I started, but they ruined that for
we've
us.
grown to a bit much since then to do that. I think we find our ways to party regionally well enough that
And then
we
you guys
probably
just-
get away with it.
You just pipe beer to everybody where they are.
If that's their tipple of choice.
Live
sure.
your roots.
That's a great idea.
Can't make pipelines, but we can make beer lines cross border.
You
right?
can, exactly,
Boom.
yeah.
That was
We've
good.
actually done a few brewery projects. They're kind of fun. So there's a lot of pipes, so that gets us excited. So they're good.
We can throw
would
some
be-
wine in there too.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Wine guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were you guys at the Whistler thing?
Yes.
Did we see you
Well,
guys?
I think
there?
that's where this
that was the
sort of
original
started.
connection.
I was talking to Dave, who did a great job from
Dave Block? That's different.
from Ellis Don.
Dave
Oh, yeah.
McFarland.
Yes, and he was coming over. We said hello and shook hands, and I saw him sitting down with you guys. And Jeff Block is the introduction
Block,
because
yes.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's really cool. There's a construction podcast, which is kind of how this came about. And he mentioned he knew you guys, and I thought it was a great idea. And he connected the dots for us, and I thought perhaps it'd be a good opportunity to have a conversation. And then that's kind of where we ended up today. So that was the source of learning about your guys' outfit.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome.
So, but in saying that, though, we talk about breweries and everything. Victaulic is just, we said we see your guys' name at all the events.
Yeah, we do.
But you are everywhere. The pipe is everywhere.
We try to be.
You try to be. Your team out here, okay, you said obviously in Vancouver, in Western Canada, British Columbia, it's a bit of an anomaly. It's a real estate hub, right? It's a building hub. There's a lot of activity. Teams across the rest of the country don't quite look like probably what you guys have out here, I'd imagine.
Correct. BC, what is it? It's BC's number one industry now, right? Construction, is it not? And so, yeah, I think there's growing teams in other metros. That's what we call them, as metro teams. So the main hub of activity here, Toronto, places like that, have larger teams. But from an opportunity, it's as high here in the western part of the country as anywhere else. And I think we do have the largest, at least within Canada, the largest team within any single province.
And you're supplying most of the big jobs out there. I mean, in terms of the high rises, you guys are doing most of that work.
So that's my focus of the high rise. We'd like to be on more than we are, but it's a very groove penetrated market. When I say that, it's grooved is the technology again that we use, and Victaulic is the originator of that. But that residential market is very penetrated with that joint type, and so we're on a very large percentage of the projects out there and working with a lot of the contractors for the buildings going vertical. Corey's business is a little different. I'll let him talk about that, but it's certainly a big part of the way we build out in this part of the country.
So just in terms of for those who are less familiar, exactly, like let's say in a high rise, you guys are doing all of the piping. Like you're talking sprinklers,
Sprinkler.
Blackwater. It's called Blackwater, right?
All the various systems, yeah.
Okay, so you're doing basically all of. What about venting? And you're doing
So that's the one that we don't really participate in as much. As Corey mentioned, we're pipe agnostic, so we have the potential to be used on nearly all systems, right? But economics, joining methods, types like that have an impact on it, and drain waste and vents not traditionally been one of them.
Okay.
It's been heavy cast and plastic, but it's certainly something we can be used.
I see,
In the States, storm drain was a big thing. Large storm drains, like especially in Texas, big rain events, and a lot of galvanized pipe, and we're a main utilization for that sort of application. But they do vary.
Storms becoming a big one because just with these, these atmospheric rivers.
Right.
That's such a funny thing to say.
I know, right?
River.
I know.
That and a heat dome.
Yeah, that's a
the
2-year-old term, I feel, but
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
but anyway, it dumps all the rain at the same time, so you can only release so much of it down into the sewer system. So they get a 300 psi backup, and then they move away from glued plastics and cast iron with just like a VJ clamp or whatever on it, and over to stainless, and then we can play.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we talked a lot about team. in both of yours and out here in British Columbia. But we also talked before a lot about labor. Talked about talent acquisition. And I know this is a big point of your guys' focus and how Victaulic is approaching it, how Victaulic has addressed it. Let's get into this a little bit.
Please.
Okay. Well, you mentioned it's been a hot button topic, and it has been.
Yeah.
I was on the island speaking to some of the union officials, talking about their challenges over there, and obviously the demand with the big hospitals coming up here. It continues to be a strain. I don't think that's a news for anybody. But it's been fun and a bit rewarding. The history of Victaulic, that's been our big approach, even back especially when we got into commercial construction, 50s, 60s, and 70s, was to shift risk and responsibility from the labor side into the material side, and have an engineered solution that can meet the requirements of the job and the range of skill that can install that joint, myself included to some degree. It shrunk a little bit, the talent required for it. So there's never going to be a lack of need for skilled labor. I mean, there's so many applications where welding makes a ton of sense, but we're finding that skilled labor is, as you know, getting smaller and smaller, especially in the pipe trades. And so it'd be great to have them focus on those applications where they're needed and be able to shift those resources elsewhere. And we're able to allow one guy to do 5 to 10x of the output that he could do with other traditional methods, whether they're welded, threaded, sweat, etc., and to do it with a joint of confidence and training that's much more limited to a smaller time frame than the skill that goes into some of those traditional methods. So we've been doing it for years. What's been fun the last few years as we become more required to off-site construction, that's fabrication, modularization, things like that, MTRs. We've really lent ourselves to that application too. Down in the States where I came from, it was a lot of fabrication facilities. I would say they're a little further ahead outside of a couple outfits up here in terms of off-site fabrication, but they were all centered around welding when they did their infrastructure early on. And it's been good because it's a very effective use, but there's some gaps that Victaulic fills very well. And so it's been fun to bring not only what we've been able to do well in the field, into the shop setting and grow that aspect too, and really just alleviate some of the stresses that are on the skilled labor. Because again, the skill is dwindling, but just the sheer number, body count of heads is going down, and we directly impact that in a positive way. We want to continue to do that.
It may be a dumb question. Manufacturing and supply side, you guys take care of. Installation side, purely on the contractor, or do you guys have?
Purely on the contractor.
Purely, okay, yeah. Because there's not. So when you have a field relationship, it's purely just for. You're providing the material, educating how to, what you're currently using and how to train it. Yeah,
from a front end construction piece, we offer a platform called VDC, Virtual Design and Construction. So a lot of the larger contractors are engaged in some of the same things, but we'll get involved basically up front when the major equipment's being procured. We'll start to lay out the mechanical room, so the really dense spaces with the heating and cooling. To answer the question on scope, that's our bread and butter, right?
Okay.
Kind of the brain of the building. We'll lay it out. We'll crop it up into smaller handleable pieces, so like say 12 feet long spools, and then we'll fabricate those ourselves in Edmonton. Put them on a truck, deliver them to site. But the on-site piece of the construction is being done by the mechanical contractor.
Right. Yeah. Okay, no, that makes sense. But you guys are heavily involved, and we'll get into more of that in pre-project planning and stuff like that. But okay, the talent side, the labor side, is Victaulic doing? Do you guys have any particular initiatives that you're doing? I mean, huge company, loads of people. In terms of getting to people earlier, attracting people into a different type of career. You came from general contracting and found your way into this particular field.
Well, I guess I could speak a little bit because I did come from a more unique, I should say, background from what Victaulic would traditionally hire. We were talking beforehand, the traditional sales guy we need, right? We need a hand-to-hand combat capable sales guy that can bring value to our customers. Right. But as we're morphing as to more of a project partner, which we'll get into, some measure of knowledge for construction is helpful, or teaching them on that front, right? And so there's a lot of avenues that we can identify good talent that can be capable of a broad range. Because a lot of general contractors, those listening, you guys know, you're selling every day, whether you're communicating with an owner, an architect, an engineer to try to accomplish a common goal of executing a project. Well, a lot of that comes with not only know-how of construction, but also some salesmanship and applied benefits value selling. And we're trying to execute that. On the early end, I'd like for us to honestly do a little bit more. Outreach is a big thing. There's some really good mechanical contractors in this market who are doing outreach even as early as high school to get them into the trades, which I think is great. Oh, yeah. From our standpoint, I think we could do more. Early on, we used to have a I don't know, how long has it been since we've done the internship program, Corey? Do you know?
I feel like I was in the last one.
Yeah, because you were part of that program?
I think we're talking 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be a good one to bring back.
It would be. I think we're missing, and we're trying to find new roles as we grow. We have more requirements to manage these projects, manage our efforts, our proposals to contractors. We're looking, Corey and I, are avenues to bring guys in early for maybe more of an entry level inside support staff too, and try to identify talent that way and grow it organically, and give them exposure to all the different things that we look at. So it's a challenge, and I think it's something we should do better. But it's something we're working on, so no doubt.
So what's with the ramp? First of all, let's say you had an opportunity to do a grade 12, high school kind of, when you come out of school, here's an opportunity. Let's say you're able to do a presentation. Let's say, what would that ramp look like for what jobs are available? Let's say in Vancouver for those people right now. Like, what are those positions that you guys have a huge hole in that you need to fill?
I think we keep up with the sales, the outside sales side of things. Certainly operations, warehousing, things like that.
Okay.
They're always a challenge. And to be honest, I mean, we deploy. We have an internal recruiter who does a pretty good job, and we deploy a couple of external recruiters too that that are pretty aligned with some of the items that Nick just spoke about. That they line them up and bring them in, and they do a good job, I think.
Well, it's you mentioned the word internship, and there's other countries that get into schools sooner, or at least help people plan careers. And it's not just like, I think I said in the last one, when you go to university, unless you're doing like finance or accounting, you're kind of figuring things out in terms of your path afterwards, right? It's not as defined. In the same goes here, getting into schools or earlier education and being able to let people know, hey, there's these wonderful careers. You got a little hands-on experience. Come over here. The whole entry-level sales thing. It's always been a thing, but I think unless it's really spoken about more, or talked about more, or marketed more, people just don't know that they exist. But there's these great jobs in construction trades, working for a company like Victaulic, to be able to jump in, with minimal experience, but come in into a bit of that internship or co-op style program, right?
Well, I think format, that's what attracted me to connecting with you guys, is this is a platform that is, I think, not used enough in our industry.
Yeah.
And you guys are great, not only the podcast, which is a great way to outreach, it's the way I consume a lot of my day-to-day content. We're talking on the way in some of the things we listen to, but also to show the range of outfits. I mean, even your company, SiteMax, it's not someone would think about getting into construction, but the range of opportunities is growing. We're seeing it grow even within our own firm, whether it's technology-based, design-based, engineering. We have engineers on staff doing actual pipe design for us, structural. I mean, the opportunities are endless, and I think this is a good outfit to reach some of those folks that may not otherwise know. So I thank you guys for doing that. I think it's cool.
Oh, hey, no, we appreciate that, and clearly you guys you're crushing it in your area too, and we love that you're here and willing to share your story and your experience. But yeah, that's a really good point that you've made there. We talked about this again in the last few episodes, is that there are so many more with the introduction of technology, robotics, just marketing, sales, things, construction, just like before it was just like, oh, we're builders.
Yeah.
We get out there and we'll smash some stuff together. Not trying to dumb it down, but I'm just saying, like, there's a breadth to it now that can attract so much more talent.
It seems that there's this, for individuals getting the pitch that I would say for younger people to sort of get involved, is that we are now at this, it's kind of like an investment. Like your experience and how many years you've been doing something. Now, if you come in and you were to start in construction today, fresh, and you just, reached out to an outfit like you guys, say, look, I want to get in construction, don't really know where to go. What kind of jobs do you guys have available for me? What I think is interesting is even if it's something, even with another company that's maybe in the field, these field jobs are starting to become cleaner jobs because of technology. And the investment that you make now within, let's say 5 years from now, is getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. It's becoming less of a rough and tumble job and more of a technical job. And I think that is the part that I think is exciting. And those that have more experience of time on the site, time in the office, time with the product, whatever that is, in relation to construction will have that better opportunity later. So I think that investment, I think if young people can understand that if I get in now, it's kind of like I'll be worth more to the technology, because it will become about experience running technology.
It's like a lot of things. Once you've had, we all have a good amount of experience in our careers at this point in time. But when you first get in and you look back, you go, man, I wish there's a lot of things I would have seen, known. I wish the industry would have evolved because it would have been different starting now. But I even remember I started on the tools like right out of high school. And job sites, like you said, like job sites were dirtier. Okay, construction's dirty. You're in the field, it's dirty. But like things on site have become more organized, more professional. And that's a marked difference.
Safer too. It's a safer industry, right?
It's safer, but that's attractive, right?
Yeah.
And all these things. So when it was just like, it's kind of not great on a construction site or out there in the field. Now you look around, look at all like a lot of our customers, and I'm sure a lot of your guys' customers, like foremen, superintendents, even field staff. They're pro, and they're getting more and more professional as we go here, and they're aided with, safer practices. They're aided with better operational procedure things, right, from their office. They're aided with way better technology or products that are crazy innovative, that have better, like you were saying with computer, was that VDT or
VDC?
VDC, right? Like that.
Exactly. Which lends itself to the same thing, because like instead of just bashing stuff together, to your point, 70% of the work is done in a controlled environment, and now I got to think forward. Like I got collision detection to do with all these other guys. How am I going to rig this? What am I going to put in first? What elevations am I working on? I got to make sure my equipment's landed before I start to receive these things on site. So there's a lot of logistics involved as well, right? So you're thinking more than you're just standing there with a wrench.
And these guys that are doing that, you mentioned like in our industry, the foremen and the superintendents that are the pipe fitters or plumbers. Not only are they capable behind a rod welding pipe together, probably how they got here, but they're doing almost zero of that now, and they're really just leaders and collaborators, right? I mean, we're finding these projects are not going together slower. They're all going together faster with tighter budgets and all the other challenges that I'm sure you guys have talked about ad nauseum on this podcast. But the guys in the field or in the office collaborating, which Corey and I love to engage our team where we can on the front end to help in any avenue we can do, that's really what it's about. The better planning and collaboration that happens, and we're people out there now. You can know how to build, but you got to know how to coordinate with folks and have a common goal.
Totally. I think that gets into the conversation about pre-project planning, right? And you were talking earlier about you guys are getting more and more involved, and this just helps streamline things start to finish. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Corey, maybe good for you because your projects are quite long.
Yeah. We're talking hospitals here.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, one of the challenges is that it's not bid spec. It's their design build, their proponent type of projects, right? So you got a concept and you got it tied to a budget when you get on this thing, but the design's 40%. And you're constructing within 6 months of being awarded the job, you're on site and you're going, right?
Right.
So I mean, these guys are building the first floor before the second and third floor are designed.
That's crazy.
So again, that brings us back to we need the job's 100% BIM compliant. So I need the structural guy, I need the electrical guy, I need the civil guy, I need the geotechnical guy, and of course our mechanical people to be in a room talking about who's in the way and dealing collaboratively with clashes and interferences. Otherwise, if you don't sit and talk, you're not going to meet the challenging budget, and you're certainly not going to meet the price point. Mm-hmm. So we step in with our virtual design and construction offering. So oftentimes we'll have somebody who's sitting in that meeting, and we get involved with the racks and the spooling strategy and the delivery strategy and all those things that I talked about that really would encourage somebody to come into this trade in the first place. And we 70% of that thing is built in Edmonton in our facility once we're engaged. And we ship it to site and it goes together fairly quickly.
You said, you may have said earlier, people don't talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And we keep referring, because there's so many common themes, right? When we bring people on from all different specialties and trades and divisions and stuff like that, it's common. It's a common thing in construction, right? You're coordinating companies upon companies to build projects. There's not a lot of places of work that have to do that every day. And yeah, it's difficult for people to talk. But you also said, Nick, I think, it's getting better and better and better, just generally in both of you guys on sites. Is communication and coordination getting better and better and better? Or are there just endless breakdowns still?
I mean, you can see it. It's getting better because it has to. And I don't know if it's because folks want to or not, but it just must.
Yeah.
And so it's being force-fed a little bit. But there's still gaps. You mentioned, I think that's one of the things that we've been focusing on too, is construction's always been pretty siloed by your division, by your contract, by your responsibility.
Yeah.
Corey mentioned the days of planned bids, bid spec work are going by the dodo bird to some degree. And it's really just one collaborative team. And construction's needing to catch up to that a little bit. One thing that we've been really enjoying is, whether it's on my end from a developer for a major tower, an owner, health authority, whomever on Corey's end, is bringing some early value to them, but then being able to synergize, because we're not getting a contract from anybody. At the end of the day, our mechanical contractors or our plumbers are our biggest customers, and they're the ones buying our product.
Yep.
Right.
But we're involved months or years before that, and we're creating some synergy from one group to another and filling in some of these siloed gaps in between, having the structural guy talk to the mechanical consultant. We're looking at hanging pipe in a 65-story tower that has X amount of weight load. For years, we were involved and we were too late, and we're trying to post-apply these things and make sense of it. Well, those two silos didn't talk. It's been fun now. Hey, we have visibility early, and you wouldn't think of Victaulic as someone to go to the structural engineer and the mechanical engineer to kind of have a discussion about what we want to do with pipe supporting and seismic responsibilities, and then bring that fully vetted to the mechanical contractor and the GC. So not only they have the correct design, they can adjust as needed, ask for more space, less space, whatever, but also a budget that they can maintain and not get these huge wide spikes that'll happen if it's not planned for, right? And so we're finding that it's being forced, but I will say that our teams are really focusing on trying to facilitate that wherever we can in the small piece of the pie that we have. There's some effect when we can bring those parties together even on our own accord, right? So
how does that go down? So let's just say that you have a mechanical contractor customer who uses your product. They have their client who's the GC that's hired them, and then the GC has their client who's the developer. Maybe they're a hybrid GC developer. So how does that work in terms of when do you have the green light to start talking to the structural engineers and all that? Like, because sometimes they don't have the job yet, or like at what point does your customer say, okay, guys, you can start now your communication program to start to sort of add some grease to the wheels? How does that work?
If it's on the bid spec side of things, we're engaged with the mechanical consultant, and then to some extent through them to the structural consultant.
Okay.
Trying to lay out what the riser and the point loads are going to look like before it ever hits the street. So
okay.
So there's an early level concept which is then fine tuned, post tender.
So does that determine what subs they can use then, based on familiarity with your product?
I don't think that would be restricting. No.
Okay.
We would try not to, to that degree too, because it can be delicate if we're that early, right? We know where our bread is buttered. I mentioned that, I think, at the VRCA with our partners that are out there. But if we're fearful of trying to bring value on the front end, we can't. But we do want to keep it fair, competitive, and open to those that can participate. And so give a framework that's going to be able to be executed by multiple. We don't want to drive the boat any certain direction in that arena, right? We want to be collaborative and bring the best value that we can and open the door to any folk that's capable of doing so, right?
But your product is spec'd prior to, I would imagine. So it's like using the Victaulic product as a spec for the job.
Well, it's rare that we're prime spec'd. I mean, there's some instances, but a lot of times it's an option, right? We're a solution. Now, often the best case for us is, hey, if you want to use a groove solution, it must meet this level of performance and requirement. That's usually unique to us. But if you still want to weld it, that's an opportunity to do so, and things of that nature, right? So there's always a competitive advantage that way.
I know where your question's coming from, though, because we just had this conversation with a specialty contractor, and they were talking about, like, when you have like a very specialized product, only certain vendors are approved to put it together and stuff like that. Right. But you guys are very general for the for the.
We have specialty systems in it. Like we could go down a black hole with that, but we have a fire protection system that's special hazards called Vortex. So
Okay.
for instance, it's the only system that comes to mind right now where you would need exclusive training in order to install that.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, we're talking server rooms and
Which would be great for this room, by the way. If you
yes.
guys need some
we should
some
look at that.
water-free protection.
Yeah, exactly.
We got
That-
a ceiling tile there now. That used to be fully exposed up there. I was like, oh, looks good. Nice.
Wasn't easy.
Dave, get a shot. No.
Sprinkler head beside an air freshener.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to see earlier on if you're looking at construction. I mean, we always talk about sales and marketing funnel and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the very front end, top of the funnel, bottom, whatever it is in construction, with different vendors, different people earlier on that are all, like we were saying about on site, getting more and more professional in the way they coordinate, in the way that they communicate, in the way that they just deliver early on. That obviously has a trickle down effect, right? From the top of a project all the way down as it goes through, right? You're just removing bottlenecks. You're looking forward into the future as to what could potentially be there to create a bottleneck, and it just streamlines construction.
I think bottleneck's a good term. You can make a career out of being a bottleneck specialist, I think, in any industry, and identify and change those. And we try to find them, but they're popping up all the time. It's funny. We mentioned technology is becoming such a big part of early construction. Well, you got to have people to design that, right? And you either have guys that know the industry and the trade that are maybe challenged a bit to do the technology, or you got guys that are computer whizzes that know nothing about building things. And it all sounds good. And the good thing is it's happening earlier. It's not on the critical path, but you're still finding unique new bottlenecks that we never had before. So I think you're constantly chasing that down the rabbit hole, those different issues to try to capture, right?
What was that? I think we had a guest on a little while ago that was saying that they had some less experienced people that are just hired in, and they don't know what they're doing, and they can design, but they don't have the experience to have that kind of depth of what could go wrong with that design. I mean, who was that? I think it was maybe your Marcus.
Was it before Mark?
I think it's Mark's story. They were saying that they had somebody on a site that was like super green and
yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of goes to even your earlier point about having the experience, right? Or at least just understanding how something works. Even for us as a tech company providing a software product, right? Yes, we don't go to site that often necessarily, but it's used on a job site by men and women in construction who presumably have a good understanding of what they're doing. But even when we look to bring people on our team, we go, and not to bring it back to the talent acquisition side of things, but just even competency side of things, having that construction know-how and knowledge of like, what's this going to look like on the job site? Trying to think a couple steps ahead. This is part of the planning process. This is part of what could be, again, a bottleneck down the road. But having people that just understand how things go and not just all that theory of a book or education is super critical.
it is. Yeah,
It allows people to problem solve, get practical, and think critically and stuff like that.
Well, it's when we're developing our people, it's in the field is where they get their most valuable still even now, right? We give a training module and programs and product knowledge, but there's no replacement for seeing it, feeling it, touching it, and experiencing. The job site doesn't lie. That's what we've always come up in Victaulic to learn, and there's so much truth that's still to that today. So you can't find it in a book.
Nope, couldn't agree more. No.
you said the job site is a lie?
The job site doesn't lie.
Oh, doesn't lie.
No.
Okay.
It's like the data doesn't lie. There's all
data-
sorts of
yeah, the
data all
data.
over the job site. It's right in front of you. Hurts you sometimes.
A question in terms of the you guys came through, the past 3 years. We don't want to say the C word, but as you have seen more people working from home, all of that kind of stuff, the collaboration side of things. Do you feel that project consciousness has increased or decreased over this time?
I think it's increased in the commercial business. Like one of the challenges on the mining piece of the business is the job site doesn't lie. It fits in perfectly to it, because if our people aren't on the job on the mine site, you can't identify where that bottleneck or where that challenge is, and that killed us during the C word.
Okay.
Right. I mean, you got to be out there, and you just couldn't get to site. There was too much risk, especially with remote job sites.
Yeah.
You fly 6 guys in on an airplane along with a Victaulic guy that was sick, and the whole mine shut down. That's $75,000 an hour in production. So
Not to go down too much onto that topic of remote work, but I'd imagine with a pretty spread out project base and labor force, well, not necessarily you guys, but a lot of the things that were learned over the last 3 years about deploying information to a mine or a more remote site has probably gotten a lot better for you guys. I mean, do you travel as much as you used to in your roles, or can you collaborate more remotely?
I think there's more you're able to accomplish to some degree, maybe more, at least the day-to-day responsibility or any of the menial tasks that before you might have traveled for that maybe may not make sense. But I tell you, we're in a peer-to-peer, face-to-face business, very old school in that way. Victaulic is we learn in the field, we shake hands across desks, we're enjoying a round of golf perhaps, to have all those different things that go along with what's really been at the core of what we've done for years. And it starts in the job site. That was challenged a lot. And I know early on, talking to even some construction executives, well, hey, I'm glad I didn't have to fly here to have one meeting and then waste a day here. I could fill 6 in the same day. But you kind of get a little bit watered down, we're finding, from that too. And any opportunity that we can get to still get folks in person, even if it is a little bit of a time investment, still pays dividends. And it's we're wore out of the looking at a screen thing too. It's it was a useful tool for a while, but it shouldn't be the norm. It should be the exception. And I think we're doing a better job figuring that out.
Yeah, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that whole notion of out of sight, out of mind applies to problem solving a little bit here. If you're not there, you don't think about it. Or if you're not there, like if I don't come and physically meet with either of you guys, there's a lot of things I just might leave unsaid, right? Or issues on a project that I'm just like, well, next time I see them, and it could be a month down the road, but that could hinder a project like crazy.
Yeah.
Major delay. And
like the going to lunches and doing things that are a little bit more social brings out an entire new level of trust. Whereas you can't, let's say you meet somebody through Zoom, I almost find
transactional.
Yeah, it's so transactional, and everyone's kind of holding their cards tight to their chest a little bit because they're typically uncomfortable being on camera. Like I don't really like it that much, especially as you get older. You're like, oh, geez, you see that on the screen, you're like, fuck, is that what I look like?
Well, you mentioned you guys tried doing a couple of these virtually, and there was challenges to that, right? So
yeah.
It's gotta be similar, no?
Yeah, over the last 3 years, like we kind of took a bit of a break because we tried to, and there are lots of podcasts and educational things that, they put the box here and the box there and the box there, and the content gets communicated and it's good, right? But this whole experience has
I like
been,
this way better.
Yeah, like just being able to sit with people, talk with people. If they're not in the city, we have a screen and they come in on Zoom, and it's nice. Dave's done a great job piecing that all together, but no replacement for being here, sitting here, and doing what we're doing right now. For
sure. Yeah.
Victaulic was built on innovation, an awesome concept 105 years ago. When it comes to the topic of innovation now, I think we talked a little bit about embodied carbon, just new technology, innovation in the company. Let's unpack some of that, because I know Victaulic's got some good insights and interest in here.
Yeah, Nick made a point earlier that a lot of the focus on sustainability from an embodied carbon perspective has been on the structural side of things. So, high volumes of concrete, high volumes of structural steel. So I think there's more visibility now, and it's incoming on the mechanical side of things. Even though the carbon steel pipe that's going into heating and cooling systems doesn't match that of the structural element. There's more and more development there all the time. Our product is made 95% of recycled materials. So so you've got the primary side of it, how it's manufactured. From the installation side, obviously no smoke and fume from weld. You're just hammering this stuff together with an impact gun. And then from the deconstructability side, you take it apart, you melt it down, or reuse it. But at end of life, we're talking typically 50 years for M&E. And then the gaskets just come off and they get mulched up and turned into kids' playgrounds, right? So sort of the full landscape of things from a manufacturing to end of life. We've got a pretty good sustainability card to play.
So in terms of the end of life stuff, I mean, for a company that's as old as your company is, you've seen some deconstruction. I mean, to even think now, you hear the word innovation, and then you hear deconstruction, and then you hear a proprietary product. It's just, to me, I think, what, you guys are taking this stuff apart? It just seems antithetical to the whole thesis of what we're talking about.
Well, we say
here.
life of the system for our solution we have, and I would say there's probably decommissioned projects over the years that haven't taken that approach, but with focus, you can, right? So I don't know that we've done it in the past, but the nice thing is the way we make our product and have made our product lends itself directly to that. So we don't have to change a lot to accomplish that. So it'd still be on the responsibility of the individuals at the end of life of these facilities to do so. But as it becomes more and more important to do it, we'd like to think that they will. And if we need to take a proactive role to ensure it happens, then that'll be kind of the next step, right?
So how much of that is the pitch in terms of the sales? Is that the end of life of our product now? Like anything new going into buildings now? Are they like, yeah, well, we're hoping this thing's going to be around for,
Well, it's
Just trying to build this thing and get on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still new, so
how
I don't
much
know.
of a value proposition
And the
is that?
deconstructability piece is brand new. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking like 2023, right?
Yeah,
So
okay. That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
We're following the structural piece on the front end of it in terms of what's going into the product, how is it getting here, and what's the carbon footprint.
Right.
And then the deconstruction it's a new conversation, but I think it's coming strong.
Right.
Because we're knocking buildings down, and then all this rubble goes to a construction landfill.
Yeah.
This one has been, and I've brought this up a couple times, and like this particular stuff has been really interesting to me. And it's not that, maybe in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, even longer, I never put much thought into, is this thing going to be able to be recycled? Mm-hmm. Even at home, it's like, cans and food, whatever, just don't put much thought into it. But maybe since it's hitting something that I'm in day to day and something that I love in construction, when the conversation around deconstruction starts happening, it's like my eyes are kind of, or at least my attention has been perked by the whole thing. Because now I'm having conversations with my buddies who are a lot of guys are in trades. Had my friend over yesterday, runs a roofing siding business. And he's like, I listened to the podcast with Adam from Unbuilders. And he's like, this whole deconstruction thing. And then I'm not trying to, like, he's a smart kid. He's a really smart guy. But he's like, is this just going to be super costly, though, to take these things apart? But if you're looking so far ahead into deconstructability, and again, there's pre-project planning, and not to blow this into something it's not, but it's like end-of-life project planning.
Seriously,
But if components are being, in 2023, put together in a way that's like, okay, well, there's been a lifespan on building from an engineering standpoint. Well, there was a 100-year building, and now is it 50? Oh, it's because we want to keep deconstructing and rebuilding, whatever. But if the components are coming together in a way that's just not going to be like, again, like they were put together so long ago, smashed, now they're, meticulously, not maybe so, but in some ways taken apart and repurposed. Yeah, initially, until there's more and more innovation, then it gets smoother, faster, more efficient, cost effective. But eventually, just makes sense to me. Some of this stuff just seems so removed when it's like, oh, save a straw. It's like, oh, deconstruct a building. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, I see where you're going with that because like there's, I live in a high-rise complex, and when we do recycling, it's like, okay, that's got to go in that bin. That's got to go in that bin. And then when they come and pick it up, they all stick it in one thing. I'm like, well, why did I do this? Why did I do this?
False advertisement.
Why'd you put me through the brain damage of having to have different bags and all this kind of stuff? So that's the question, I think, is this, the Unbuilders is very specific. He knows what he's going to get.
Yeah.
He's got a kind of shopping list for projects. So just the embodied carbon, can you just describe how relative that is to your product volume? Is that a small impact? Is it a big impact? Like, just give us a sort of per square millimeter impact.
Give us a broad view with specific metrics, please.
I think you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. Like, is this a Fugazi a little bit? How much is going in there?
Probably 5% of the structural piece, which is why you have a gap. Right.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
But when you start counting calories, I always look at it as calories on a building, right?
Yeah, good point.
That's
a really good point.
80% of the buildings, we did such a good job of squeezing the orange for the last 20 years to make buildings more efficient during their operation. And we've gotten pretty close, but that's still only 20% of its carbon footprint is the functionality of the building throughout its life cycle or whatever the percentages is. 80% during construction.
Yeah.
We're a small piece, but as we continue down this path, and that's why we're trying to get ahead of it because it's not here yet. But if we wait, then we're going to be behind the 8 ball and so will our portion of the industry.
Right.
And so just some awareness and opportunity now is good, because when we do start counting those calories, every one of them is going to matter.
Right.
And if there's an advantage to doing so, and also being ahead of the curve, Corey mentioned distance. That's, one of the big things we've, partially because of the C word, partially because we're going to do it anyway. Now we're seeing more benefit here is, locational, geographical manufacturing. Like, not only are we we're increasing our North American footprint, not only for availability locally and all the challenges with the supply chain crisis from overseas, but we're seeing the fact that vehicles and boats and ships and et cetera, our product needs to travel less distance to get to the job sites to keep its calorie count down. And that's just all going to continue to blend into that. So is it there yet? Is it a small percentage? Sure. But it's going to become, infinitesimally important as we get along this path. And I think it's good to have a source that's better than, right?
Do you guys have like a calorie count kind of impact document of some sort that you provide customers with?
We're working on that right now.
That's cool. That'd be a great thing to have.
In fact, we just
all the way from like the shipping side of things and how much you're saving by manufacturing stuff in the U.S.
Exactly.
How much of your product is manufactured all in the U.S.? Is it all of it, or just some stuff, or?
So we're a global company. So I don't know, what do you think? 60 to 70% of our stuff now, maybe a little bit more, is for North America, is right here in North America. Corey?
I was going to say 70%.
70?
Yeah. Okay. We have 4 foundries in the U.S. Plus
opened a new one.
Yeah. And then all of our tools are manufactured globally in Toronto. So we ship those everywhere from there currently, and then we've got a gasket facility in the U.S. as well.
Just a question for you guys: do you think that on the construction side, obviously with consumer products, that's a whole nother ball game, but how much do you think could be all American made, or Canadian made, North America made? Pulling away from China, stuff like that. What do you guys think about that?
It's so down in the States, right? Like, especially in Texas, there's a Buy America, Buy American.
Yeah.
And those are very loophole-driven strategies, but there's an importance behind it, or domestic only. We have the ability to satisfy the majority of what we need to. We're required for that. The other thing, you mentioned the C word, there's just some unique parts, fasteners and things that we do source that have sometimes had to come from overseas or wherever.
Yeah.
But we found with the supply chain challenges, good things come to those who, wait too long to figure it out.
Sure.
We've grown our output for some of those items, and now we have a more competitive solution for it, more resources for it, and more avenues to capture those things and not be so reliant on one area or one outlet. And so I think we're even more flexible with our additional manufacturing and other folks locally to help, that I think we can grow that number to accommodate where we need to and continue to push towards a North American-based only offering.
Other
right?
than specialties like controls and things, right? I mean, I
chip-based stuff, you mean?
Truly, yeah.
It is, yeah. Realistically, yeah. Automation. I think we could get 90% is not unachievable, especially if you group in Mexico with it, because we do a lot of large diameter in Mexico.
How much of your how much of your stuff has chip-based telematics kind of stuff going on there, or like reporting, like you have control boxes that are computer controlled, et cetera?
We get into backnet integration a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The majority of our stuff, though, outside of things like that are integrated, and we're getting more and more of that as we collaborate, partner, and even merge and capture some companies. Like, we just partnered with Burmat in 2015, I think, that now our North American pressure reducing valve solution, and they have a myriad of options, right? And so we're looking to grow in that way. But a lot of that automated stuff is happening as part of our manufacturing process. And then it's,
gotcha.
You plug it in. It's a construction product that goes in the field, right? And so we don't have a lot of integration other than some of those unique products that do that.
So some of the manufacturing you have, how much have you guys seen since you've been at the company of robotics changes in terms of manufacturing your products? Has that changed a lot on the sort of shop floor?
Yeah, when I started, we had a facility called Cast Pack, which we actually didn't own. We leased the space, and so when the housings show up from one facility, the gaskets show up from another. That's where they were assembled, and it was all by hand.
Okay.
And now I was through there a couple of years ago. I want to say that we've got about 9.
It's got a new one in since you've been there.
9 robotic trains of assembly and production in that same facility, and we own it now.
That's cool.
So-
It's really cool. Because that's one of our things we offer customers to go see, because it's neat to see a foundry if you've never seen one, number one, and the home base of where the origins of our company. And it's good to go, drink the orange Kool-Aid and learn a little bit. It's fun. But on the foundry side, it's still very manual. We got guys in there. There's a great poster. 4 of the gentlemen that are working there, their combined tenure is 134 years. We just had our Vic About, which is our annual, announcement of things, and there's 26 people that had 40 years plus of tenure with Victaulic, most in the foundry.
You say Vic About?
The Vic About.
The Vic About.
Oh,
Yeah,
Vic
sorry,
About,
you guys say a boot. It's about for us in the U.S., but the Vic About.
I don't think I've ever said a boot before.
I don't think I've
never
heard
said-
it since I've been here either.
No.
But so that's cool on the foundry side. It's very manual. But in the assembly and the manufacturing, it's growing for that. Like boxes is a manual process for us, and we're looking to invest. It's not a small investment into automating our box manufacturing for our delivery. And so it's we're looking at it every year, and it's a big part of our future.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Nick, how do you say roof?
Roof,
Oh, what?
not roof.
Okay, so this is okay. We're from like very different corners of North
had to
America
learn
and
it.
whatever. Like we could all
It
say
was
things.
rough when I was growing up.
Was it rough?
People would bark back at me, so I had to stop doing that. What about CREEK?
Creek.
Creek?
Okay, good. We said crick growing up too. That
Crick?
was
Yeah,
also
what's the deal with Crick?
We just undereducated.
What the frick? What's with Crick?
Up the creek. Yeah.
Up the crick with no frick.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's good. Okay, we always like to give our guests a chance to share with our audience. The point is that you guys could take this internally too, and let Victaulic staff listen to it, employees and potential future employees. Is there anything you'd want to say in leaving them with and letting our audience or them know, how great is Victaulic, the future of the industry, that kind of stuff?
How much you
words
love
of
it.
wisdom.
Yeah.
Just how much you love doing what you're doing, how great the live PGA.
One thing I was going to say
Virtuous.
when you were asking the question about standing in front of a grade 12 audience and
Yeah.
what's cool about this,
Yeah.
and I would say who wants to do the same thing and sit in a cubicle every day,
Oh,
and no hands would go up, right? So we call ourselves sales chameleons, right? So one day you're in an engineering office doing some of the things we talked about in terms of the front end piece of the business. The next day you're going and you're doing a kickoff meeting with a contractor and helping them execute a 70% plus module VDC job. And then some days you get to work with our distribution partners on the commercial side of the business and make sure that everything's aligned and running smooth there. So you get to put on the jeans and the stripes one day. You get to put on the jacket the next day, and then maybe just the dress shirt and sit down and work through the commercial piece of the business. So we're challenged with a bunch of different things, and I think that rounds you out as a person in construction. So it's a good spot. It's a good spot to be.
that'll make a soundbite.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a great point. It scratches a lot of itches, doing it this way, and it's part of the fun. And I guess it kind of echoes the next point that I wanted to impart a little bit, is we are involved in a lot of different things, and we fancy ourselves capable, or trying to be capable and wanting to be capable of being a partner in construction across many facets. A lot of people think of Victaulic, they hear it and like, oh, you're the fire guy, because that's the pipe that most people can see, the orange clamps that are throughout the project. But, I would challenge our customers to challenge us, and our customers aren't our customers yet. And that's a big part of why I wanted to be on, or Corey and I wanted to be a part of this, because you reach a broad range of the construction industry. We want to be challenged, and it's a fun job when we are, and we get to continue to learn, and we have good resource capabilities and open minds to go out and be a partner with everybody, right? And really try to bring value to every aspect of the project. So if you think you know Victaulic, or I've heard of them before, or et cetera, I would challenge yourself to ask again, because there's a lot of new things offering, a lot of new people, and a lot of interesting construction value that we bring today, or would like to think that we do, that perhaps we didn't even 3-4 years ago. So it's fun. It's fun advancement.
Well, there's one thing that I would say that hopefully, if your senior leadership listen to this, hopefully they do. I've been involved in the culture of lots of companies. My previous life, doing what I used to do. And I got to say, sitting here listening to you guys representing your company, they shouldn't be more proud. Yep. Honestly, and I don't mean that to make you guys, feel uncomfortable, but to see you guys come in here, you're wanting to represent. You're not too concerned about your own personal brand. You are in this company. You want to represent this company. There's no BS. You guys are representing this so well. And I think that, kudos to you guys for digging in and like representing.
Thank you.
I would echo those sentiments.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We're
for sure.
proud, man. It's a passionate industry we're in, and we're proud of it, and it's fun. So I appreciate you saying that, Corey, and I both do.
There's that
thoughtful.
Kool-Aid again.
Yeah.
I'm drinking it.
Orange though?
Yeah,
The orange Kool-Aid.
Okay.
Well, it's like Sitemax, we can't have the yellow Kool-Aid.
We have blue couplings now, if you prefer that. So
Blue
you can get
Kool-Aid.
some of those.
Blue Kool-Aid.
blue, blue, exactly. The blue Kool-Aid, yeah.
That's the cult-like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's fantastic. But you know what? You do get a chance to share a little bit about yourselves and let our audience and those in your company that'll listen to know a little bit about yourselves as well. We always end with a rapid fire round. And there's 3 questions each, and we're going to go through both. What we'll do is we'll just say the one question, and you guys can both boom, boom, bounce back. Sound good? You didn't look through them too closely, did you?
I saw the first one. I think that was
Smidge.
It. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Whoever wants to start, but first question always is, and I'm completely blanking on what our first question always is.
I'm gonna let you sweat on this one. I'm gonna let you sweat
Why
on
am I
this.
having a complete mental block on our first question? Oh yeah, I do remember now. Sorry.
I know the last two.
Complete brain fog on my part. Gentlemen, what is something you do that, or
There it
believe
is.
in that, or no, it's something that you do that others would think is insane?
Nice recovery.
Took a while.
Like you said, if you think our senior executives are proud of us, this is where we'll screw it up. So go ahead, Corey.
Can I go off the job on this one?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course
this
you
is-
can. This
yeah.
is everything. This is you.
This is
your
you,
life.
perfect.
Here's an embarrassing little piece, and I struggle to get away from it. But when I sneeze, I actually say sneeze, and it's
Do you?
yeah.
I just learned this over the
Really?
weekend.
I say belch when I burp at home.
Oh,
you?
there
The kids love it.
That's kind of the same.
Belch every time. Kids love it.
So I'm glad the lights aren't too bright in here.
Oh yeah,
That one's shocking.
I can't wait to see that. That'll be funny. Okay.
I like to claim my steak to leftovers, and I'll take a bite out of them and leave them in the fridge. And people will know if I'm in the house because there'll be one bite out of something, and they're not allowed to eat. Well, if they so choose to, they can if they're brave enough. But most of the time, that's me claiming my steak to the leftovers, and my wife hates it. So,
Was that a thing growing up, or something?
I mean, digging into the childhood brand, maybe I appreciate food more than most. But yeah, maybe I'm a little territorial. I'm one of 4, so
There you
that might have been my way of
That'll
you
do
like
it.
take
hearing that.
one bite out of an apple and just put it back.
The apple, no, but like a slice of pizza, a wing, notorious for taking a bite out of a wing and putting it back in the fridge. And my wife hates that. So
I can imagine. Yeah.
She'll be nodding her head if she ever listens to this. So
I can see how that logic works, though.
Yeah.
it
could.
does work. I'll tell you that it works.
Okay, I do remember our second one, and that is, if you guys weren't doing what you're doing right now, crushing it at Victaulic, what would you be doing? And I'm going to say non-construction related. What would you be doing?
I'd be in. My plan was to do some form of law enforcement. So
Oh, yeah.
I can see the cop.
I can see a bit of that,
yeah.
international or borders, something like that.
You do have that stoic thing. You can just
Yep.
be quiet and be like, I just need your license,
Like,
sir.
that's my RBF.
I could see it
got
though.
one.
If that's what
He's got.
He knows.
Yeah. We were talking sports in the way, and I have a passion for the sports and following sports. Something in that industry. I really like this format too. If ever there was an opportunity to get in the media side of things and cover an interesting topic, I think that would be quite enjoyable. And I think something in that field would be a lot of fun if I could change gears and do it.
I could 100% see you having a great sports podcast.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be.
If you guys are my first guest, all 2 listeners, it'd be great.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, it builds quickly when you're passionate about
That's good.
something.
It does, yeah.
That's really cool. Okay.
We both wanted to answer golfer, but
Oh, did
we're,
you?
we're,
You would've
we're-
seen us
we're-
yesterday?
We're hopeless.
I say,
you would
yeah.
it would have been illegal for us to say that, so we can't do that.
Golfing days are behind. I always say professional caddy. It's still in the cards.
Yeah,
See, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
You
still
can see
around it.
coach it,
Yeah.
know it, and
I
not
can
have to
read
do
a
it.
green.
Geek out around it.
Yeah.
Play a lot, you know?
That's a good answer. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Last question. We're called the Site Visit Podcast. We're a construction podcast. You guys are construction guys. What is the most memorable story that you guys have from the job site?
So I'm going to flip to the mining side again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mentioned I spent a couple years in overseas in South Africa. So I had been underground a couple of times before in a mining environment in Canada, and one in upstate Nevada, and then flew 10 and 10 hours over to Joburg there. And in week 2, I'm going underground, like 2.7 kilometers. Ooh. And I'd only been on a couple mine sites over there at the time. But anyway, we're heading down. We're all brassed in. We're strapped up, PPEs on, and we get in the cage and we start going down. And all these guys are singing in Zulu. And so I look over at the the shift boss or whatever that I'm traveling down with, and I'm like, what are these guys talking about? And he said they were praying to God that they were going to come back up.
Oof. That's a real thing, going down in the mines.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Wow.
How many kilometers?
2.7 is the deepest one in the platinum.
2.7 down.
2.7 kilometers.
Into the earth.
There's a deeper one in the gold. It's Umpuning is the name of the mine. It's 3.5 kilometers straight down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you learn the Zulu prayer to join them on your way down?
I did not.
Yeah. Try to forget about that.
I'm sure English works too.
I did it English. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a great story. I'm sure that was terrifying, probably.
Awesome. You enjoyed that over there, didn't you? You liked that, though, didn't you? That was fun.
Yeah.
Is it a rush?
Yeah. That one was. Yeah.
When you're coming out.
Yeah. It's kind of like you finished the bungee jump and you're like, ooh.
Yeah. You mean like from an oxygen perspective?
Oh, probably that too.
Or a relief perspective.
It is a rush, especially your first time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
I hate
I went into a cave once and I was like, I got to get out of here.
Once you get in the cage, they close the door and you don't have a choice.
It's true.
No, I would. Yeah, that's like it's like being in a plane, right? Once you were in,
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't open the door.
Yeah.
All right.
You mentioned bungee jumping, by the way. Have you guys done it?
We did. Yeah, we did a side max one.
Yeah, we did a team one.
Up at Whistler?
Yeah.
That's great, right? My wife and I did that a couple weeks ago. That is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
your first time?
It was, yep.
And thoughts?
Did you flop off or did you do a good
I
jump?
did the full dive. My wife, I have photos. I can't show them publicly. She's already mad I have them. I did the full Geronimo. That was great. Yeah. She was in tears. And they went to grab her. They had to help her, like launch her off. And they get you with the photos at the end for like $40. And they asked, how was it? Would you do it again? I'm like, of course. And then he goes, my wife was like, but would you do it again? Because they saw her photos. And they pulled them up on the screen. I was like, I have to have them. She is just pouring tears, screaming. She's going through it. I was having the time of my life. She was not, but it was great. I enjoyed every minute of it.
She's going to listen to this.
Yeah, she is. And she's going to hate me for it.
I'll share really, really quick. When we went, I am terrified of heights. I am terrified of all these types of things, jumping off of a bridge. James let us know at the last minute. Oh, by the way, we're going bungee jumping this afternoon. It was the afternoon? That morning of, you told us?
It was on the way up to the,
Yeah, on the way up. And I was like, I had no time to be afraid, but I also very quickly had to be. He even said, like, I know this is probably something you're not going to like, but this is what we're doing. And I just was like, I just compartmentalized and I said, I'm not going to be afraid until I jump. Like, until I've left the platform, I won't be afraid. And it was obviously being recorded. And I just went through the motions. Who's going first? I'm going first. All right, come over here. I'm coming over here. All right, put your arms in the air. Yeah, my arms are in the air. I'm just like, I'm going. I'm not afraid till I jump. Look out over here. Yep, looking out. 3, 2, 1, fall. And as soon as I fell, I was terrified and I screamed.
Ah, yes, good.
And it's on camera. It's like,
like a high pitched scream.
Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great.
And flailing arms the whole way.
It was.
down.
Did you enjoy it though? Right?
It's a crazy rush, of course.
It's awesome.
I may do it. I don't know, but I don't mean to take away from.
No,
a
it was
great
fun.
story
I'm
from
glad you guys
site.
did as a team building. I kind of threatened my team that they might have to get out there and. I like the idea of you surprising them, but that's a fun.
It was good. It was
a good activity for that.
One team member backed out and then came back.
Yeah,
I can't back out. You gotta go.
So it was amazing he did it. Anyway, what's your story?
Mine is before I was at Victaulic. I mentioned I was the general contractor thing. We're doing a job actually renovating a casino, which is a very interesting project. Casinos are 24 hours, 7 days a week, and that's quite the business to learn about anyway. And trying to do interior renovation during construction is even that much more crazy. And the laws in that part of the world is casino floors need to be on water, and so to get around it was like man-made barges essentially with ballast to be on these man-made moats. It's quite silly, but
say that again.
Yeah, explain.
Yeah,
that.
so
I'm missing that.
There's a law in Missouri that casinos have to be on water. And if you guys ever watch Ozark,
I was just going to say, like,
so in this instance, it wasn't on the river. They actually man-made moats and put floating ballasts. Part of the law. I don't know what the reason is down the road.
I'm pretty sure that's reading between the lines on.
Having
a casino at all.
Took full advantage of that.
Oh yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise it needs to be on reservation. All these different rules that go with gaming in the States. But part of the challenge with that is not only you open 24 hours and you got someone losing $4,000 and looking for a way to recoup their cost walking to your job site, but because they're on the floating ballast, the toilet system, the sewage was ejection. So it actually would go up overhead via pumps and into like big grinder tanks. Well, part of the renovation were these were old copper lines that were sweat together years before, and it was so bad that it was like dripping on the live gaming floor. It's disgusting. We get to phase 2. We didn't really have a good remediation plan yet because we didn't know what we were getting into. And the first phase didn't have a lot of it. Well, the second phase did. And the plumbers, who I'll give them all the credit in the world, they're the most badass guys on the job site sometimes. He's taking down this 4-inch pipe and it's completely full, unfortunately, and he tips it and it's just head to toe like a full shower, covers him in, I don't know, 5, 10, 15-year-old waste. It's really bad.
No way.
So then we have these containers that we're trying to do the remediation to get rid of them, and everyone on the floor is going through it to clear the floor, and people are getting sick. So then we're getting rid of the stuff. We said, hey, he was going to stay and work. I was like, go home and shower and take the day off.
Did he immediately vomit?
He was good. He was the one guy that had the stomach for it, I guess, because, again, plumbers are badass. I don't think they're used to that, but they're used to it. So then he's covered in that, and then he leaves, and we send him home. The laborers who are responsible for the cleanup are not comfortable with that. And so we got this mess, and I'm not feeling well, and he's wheelbarrowing out this disaster, and he's just projectile vomiting all over outside. It was terrible. And I'm like, guys, we're about to shut the site down. That plumber was gone for 45 minutes. He showered and came back to work to come finish his shift.
Oh, wow. What a
I'm like, man, hey, we're going to sign your ticket for the day. You're good. Get out of here. I think we're sending everybody else home. But we had a much better plan after that phase, but that was one of the craziest things I've seen in person.
So moral of the story is groove your copper.
Yeah, groove your copper. Yeah.
That's being dealt a shitty hand.
Bingo.
Oh, man.
Just imagine. Is that shit on my cards?
Oh,
well, someone didn't care. Like some of these guys, their machine was their hot machine. They would just do that
of course.
In their seat. Like adults would just go in their pant because they're waiting for the big one to hit. So I don't think a lot of people up there cared that much. But
that's a crazy.
We
that's
did.
A whole other.
It's a wild industry, man. But
no kidding. Well, that's a crazy story. Haven't heard really either of those types before shared. So those are going to be really, really well received, I'm sure.
Don't be eating during mine.
We'll put a disclaimer in the show notes for sure. Gentlemen, Nick, it's great to have you join us. It was great to see you up in Whistler.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whistler. Right?
Sorry.
And Corey.
I thought you needed help. There was a pause. I'm like, Whistler.
And Corey,
Sorry.
It's great to meet you down here for the first time. Yeah. We love doing follow-up episodes, and I'm sure we're going to do one because there's lots to do, but it would be great to hang and catch up some more.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
it. No worries. Thank you. All right. Well, we got video as promised. If you love this episode and you're in construction or you know someone who is, be sure to share each of the site visit episodes, smash that like button, subscribe, and tune in to all of our episodes, which will be broadcast right here on our channel. We'll see you next time.